And we now continue with the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller. We launched it right here on this program, The Obama Nation by Dr. Jerome Corsi. One of the things you talk at length about radical associations, different ones that we have talked about, even the inspiration of Malcolm X, famous for Blue-Eyed Devils and, you know, by any means necessary and all these other comments of his. Talk about these radical associations.
Well, I mean, it begins, Malcolm X is a good starting point because Barack Obama says Malcolm X resonated the most with him reading as a young man. Remember, as a young man, Obama was now influenced, even in high school, by Frank Marshall Davis, the communist poet.
Explain. You go into a lot of detail.
Yes, he was a communist poet and a journalist. He moved to Hawaii to retire. Obama has a whole section of the book talking about Frank, who has been now fully identified as Frank Marshall Davis. Obama said he went over and, you know, this is the time when he was doing drugs, doing marijuana and cocaine. He was drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes.
Do we know if he ever sold drugs, which was a question that...
I raised that question. I mean, and my objection to what Obama says is Obama says, well, in college he quit drugs. My whole point of the book is self-reporting from people who admit they use drugs is not reliable as to when they quit.
All right, back to these radical associations. And you talk about Saul Alinsky.
Yes, Saul Alinsky.
You talk about this communist mentor of his.
Absolutely.
You talk about Malcolm X. You talk about Kenya, Odinga, communism, and even Islam. And you even quoted the New York Times as saying that he spoke perfect
Arabic in the he went to Nicholas Kristof's office in the New York Times and recited the call to prayer at sunset in perfect Arabic, and Kristof wrote about it and said, you know, Obama said this is the most lovely sound at sunset. And Kristof said, well, don't tell that to the voters in Alabama. Well,
he did say, now, why didn't the New York Times release that tape?
I'd like to hear the tape.
I'd like to hear the tape.
I also proved in the book that Obama did have Islamic instruction. It wasn't not in a madrasa.
You agree he's a Christian. You accept that.
I said if he says he's a Christian, that's what we'll accept. Also, the only definitive proof we have that Obama's a Christian was in his 30s when he got baptized at Trinity United Church. I
want you to go back to the issue of Odinga and explain why this is important, and because I don't think a lot of people fully understand the situation.
Because in 2006, when Obama was in Kenya as a senator, he supported Raila Odinga. It's a radical socialist that was, the Odinga family was tied to Obama's family. Raila Odinga, virtually extreme socialist, made an agreement with the Islamicists, you know, Sheikh Abdullah Abdi in Kenya, that he would expand Sharia law if the Muslims voted for him. Obama was asked virtually, the government of Kenya said to Obama, you've got to get out of our country in 2006, you're interfering with our election. Obama then, Odinga lost the election in December 2007. There was a wave of violence, including massacres of Christians. These Christians in Eldoret, a little village, 50 Christians came into this church and refuge. The Luo mob, and that's Odinga's a Luo tribesman. Obama is a Luo tribesman in Kenya. They burned the church down and killed the people. Obama was on the telephone contact with Odinga daily through the New Hampshire primary and entered, despite this violence, despite the Islamic agreement, to work with Condi Rice and Kofi Annan to get Odinga now Prime Minister of the country.
We're very limited on time here. Still some ground I want to cover. Tell me two good things about Obama.
He reads a good speech off a teleprompter. That's number one. And I do admire his suits. He dresses extremely well.
So on the surface, he can read off a teleprompter.
He does very well. One of the best I've seen.
In terms of in-depth, does he have any good policy position?
He's a radical, as I say.
Does he have any good policy position? Can you name one thing you agree with him on?
One thing I agree with him on. Let's see. How much time do I have?
You can't think of one thing.
I can think of nothing that comes to mind immediately.
Not one thing that you agree. He's a radical.
He's a radical.
He shouldn't be president. He's going to ruin the country. And we should all be scared that he can speak fluent
Alan,
Arabic.
You're just taking it to the extreme.
Yes, I'm taking it to the extreme. Exactly what I'm doing.
What I'm saying, Alan,
he's an extremist.
I'm taking it to the extreme. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Of course, so you're going to take it to the extreme.
He can speak fluent Arabic, and he knows people like Odinga, and we have to be really scared about him, right?
Let's get the truth about him on the record. When he says he has never had Islamic instruction, that's not true. When he says he doesn't know what, Minister...
No, he said he's not a Muslim. That's not true.
Okay, well, he says he never was a Muslim. He was registered with his stepfather as a Muslim in Indonesia.
If he was born to a father who happened to be Muslim, that's not as a child making a decision to be a Muslim. He's a practicing Christian.
Well, 6 to 10. I mean, let's get the record straight. Let's have him say, yes, I was Islamic
if you're a Muslim, is that supposed to scare people?
No, but I want the truth told.
But is that supposed to scare people that, oh my God, he's a Muslim,
no, I didn't
he knows Arabic,
I want the
he knew
truth
Odinga?
told.
We're supposed to be scared, right?
Alan, you're again trying to take it right back to you're trying to say, I'm trying to scare everybody.
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell people the truth. People from there can make their own judgments. That's what the book is about.
Mostly right-wing sources. You quote guys like Andy Martin, who takes credit for spreading the idea that he's a Muslim.
I've got 680 footnotes in here. There's over 100 books cited in here. This book, I go to the Kenyan newspapers, the Indonesian newspapers. I go to primary sources.
You go to WorldNet Daily, for whom you work. You go to Andy Martin. You go to mostly conservative, right-wing Newsmax.
Sources in here.
And they're mostly anti-Obama sources.
Look, the sources that are primary sources. They're sources, the books, for instance, Reverend Wright says, go to James McCone.
You don't claim this is a fair and balanced book, right?
McCone. No, I think it is a fair and balanced book. I'll support it as a fair and balanced book, and I'll yet to debate.
Then give me one positive thing where you agree with Obama if it's fair.
Well, why do I have to agree with Obama at any particular point? The points I analyzed were radical income distribution, taxing, those are policy positions, and much weaker.
That's an opinion.
Well, those are the points I'm arguing from his speeches and presentations.
Thanks for being here.
Great pleasure. And